My name is John Smith. Due to the scarcity of male nurses, I easily secured a job and was assigned to the intensive care unit of the inpatient department, taking care of patients who had just been transferred from the ICU. In this environment, it's quite easy to earn some extra money.
Most patients are unable to take care of themselves, and their families either stay to look after them personally or hire caregivers. Whenever I see family members hesitating, I quietly approach them and offer my services. I am more professional than a caregiver and charge much less, so most families choose me. Many other nurses do the same.
What I do every day is simply spend some time helping patients eat and cleaning them up. Since the families are not around and the critically ill patients are rarely conscious, no one knows if I cut corners. As long as I don't let them starve, there are basically no issues.
Among all the patients, my favorite ones to take care of are those in a vegetative state. Firstly, their families are usually wealthy and give me generous tips. Secondly, their condition is the easiest to manage. I just need to administer their nutrient solutions.
Currently, I am taking care of a patient in a vegetative state. I have been looking after her for over a month, the longest I have cared for any patient. Her name is Emily Williams. She is reportedly very wealthy, a major shareholder in a large corporation. After a serious car accident, the hospital brought in the best specialists, and after the rescue efforts, she became a vegetative patient.
She stays in the best private room, receiving the highest level of care. Her family is not short on money. However, her family members rarely visit. After she came out of surgery, they gave me some money to take good care of her and then left in a hurry, visiting at most once or twice a week.
I am usually the only one entering Emily Williams' room every day. Today, as usual, I was wiping her body with a wet towel when the door suddenly opened. It was our head nurse, Nurse Jane, who walked in.
What are you doing?
Nurse Jane is the leader who arranges these private jobs for us. So, whenever a family member is about to visit, I notify her in advance and then share half of the red envelope money with her. This way, Nurse Jane can assign me more high-quality clients in the future.
Just wiping her body.
Emily Williams' family will be back tonight.
She frowned at me before leaving without saying much more. To make up for the impression I left on Nurse Jane, I sat at the door of Emily Williams' room until past 10 o'clock at night. Outside, it was thundering and lightning. Just as I was about to leave, thinking I had been stood up, a man walked out of the elevator. He wore gold-rimmed glasses, with water droplets on the lenses, and carried a gift box in his hand.
You must be Emily Williams' family?
Although it was my first time seeing this man, Nurse Jane had instructed me not to ask too many questions, so I didn't say much more. As long as he paid when he left, that was enough for me. I let him into the room, glancing at the heart monitor to ensure Emily Williams' condition was stable. Then, I grabbed the trash bag and walked out.
Please be quick. The patient just got out of the ICU and is very weak.
Emily Williams' condition was not good. She needed daily nutritional fluids to sustain her life, so each visit was particularly taxing on her. I returned to the nurse's station and sat beside Nurse Jane. She put away her phone and looked at me.
Go call him in half an hour.
Nurse Jane, who is this man to Emily Williams?
On the day Emily Williams was in the ICU, many people from her family came, but I had never seen this man before.
Don't ask what you shouldn't.
I pursed my lips and said nothing more. It didn't matter who he was, as long as the red envelope was big enough. I stretched and then bent down to find the nutritional fluids. After the man left, I would give Emily Williams some to replenish her energy. As I pulled out the 2 boxes from the cabinet, I was stunned. I felt a chill all over, even my scalp tingled. The boxes containing the nutritional fluids were still sealed. The glucose solution beside them was almost empty. Seeing the color of these 2 substances, I instantly understood the situation. Someone had switched the boxes, and I had been administering glucose to Emily Williams for the past few days. Patients in a vegetative state cannot eat on their own, and the nutritional fluids contain essential substances to sustain life. An entire week. Emily Williams hadn't received a drop of nutritional fluid. How on earth was she still alive? Under normal circumstances, she wouldn't have survived this long. When I entered the room earlier, the monitors clearly showed normal readings. My mind was spinning.
What's wrong?
I quickly shook my head, trying to stay calm.
Nothing.
Remember to call for help if you need it.
Then it hit me, Nurse Jane. As our supervisor, she personally checks on the patients we take private jobs for every day. She must have administered the nutritional fluids to Emily Williams, which is why she's still alive. I breathed a sigh of relief, feeling even more trust in Nurse Jane. I watched the clock on the wall. As soon as 30 minutes had passed, I got up and headed to Emily Williams' room. But strangely, I couldn't open the door. This was puzzling because hospital room doors are never locked to allow for emergencies. There was only one possibility: Emily Williams' family had blocked the door from the inside.
Emily Williams' family, time's up. Open the door and let me in.
I knocked on the door, but there was no response. Ignoring the potential disturbance to others, I called out.
Open the door, or I'll call security.
Wait a bit, I'll pay you more.
More money? While extra money is nice, I couldn't risk losing my job over this. I had already been careless once, and Nurse Jane had covered for me. If I disappointed her again, I wouldn't get any more high-paying clients.
We agreed on 30 minutes. If anyone finds out I let someone in secretly, I'll be fired.
But the man inside still refused to open the door. I steeled myself and threatened to call security if he didn't open up. Finally, he relented and opened the door, handing me an envelope.
Here's an extra $1,000. Just don't disturb me, okay? I just want to catch up with her.
I need to check on the patient first. If she's okay, we can discuss it.
I took the envelope. I had to ensure Emily Williams was all right. If she was, and Nurse Jane agreed, he could stay as long as he wanted, as long as he paid enough. As soon as I entered the room, I sensed something was wrong.
John, can I have a word?
I quickly checked Emily's condition, puzzled by Nurse Jane's sudden visit.
Of course, Nurse Jane. Is there something wrong?
Let me stay a little longer.
She handed me an envelope. I was stunned but remembered her usual instructions.
I'll take it.
As I turned to leave, I heard a dripping sound. Looking back, I saw crimson spots on Emily's white sheets and a small pool forming on the floor.
Blood! What's going on?
Just as I prepared to lift Emily's blanket, a man grabbed my arm from behind, pressing his scalpel to my neck.
What do you want?
Why are you meddling?
She's my patient. It's my job to care for her. Besides, you're not here for money, are you? Do you have a grudge against her?
I tried reasoning with him, fearing for both Emily's and my safety.
She's already in a dire state. You don't need to do this and end up in prison.
I realized this man was seeking revenge. After Emily's accident, I heard the other party died, a recent college graduate.
Are you the father of the deceased?
You think you know everything.
He sneered and lifted Emily's blanket, revealing a fresh, bloody incision on her pale abdomen.
I just need one of her kidneys. Stand still, and I'll leave once I have it. If you delay, she'll bleed out and die.
Think this through. This is illegal. If you take her kidney, how will I explain it?
She's in a coma and can't talk. As long as you don't say anything, who will know?
I was at a loss for words. He had thought everything through. With Emily in a single room, as long as he got past me, no one would be the wiser.
This card is $10,000. Take it and leave.
Please reconsider. This isn't right.
Seeing Emily's wound made me anxious. I couldn't let this happen.
Why are you so difficult? Do you want people to know you let me in?
I was stunned again. If this got out, I'd be implicated too. In my daily routine, I helped patients eat and clean them up. Since families were rarely around and the critically ill patients were mostly unconscious, no one knew if I cut corners. As long as I didn't let them starve, there were no major issues.
Among all the patients, my favorite ones to take care of are those in a vegetative state. Their families are usually wealthy and give generous tips. Plus, their condition is easy to manage, just administering nutrient solutions.
Currently, I was taking care of a patient named Emily Williams, who had been in a vegetative state for over a month. She was reportedly very wealthy, a major shareholder in a large corporation. After a serious car accident, the hospital brought in the best specialists. Despite the rescue efforts, she ended up in a vegetative state.
Emily stays in the best private room, receiving top-level care. Her family isn't short on money, but they rarely visit. After her surgery, they gave me some money to take good care of her and then left, visiting at most once or twice a week.
I was usually the only one entering Emily Williams' room every day. Today, as I wiped her body with a wet towel, the door suddenly opened. It was our head nurse, Nurse Jane.
Amy, how is Emily today? Same as usual, Nurse Jane. Just administering her nutrient solutions.
But looking at the wound on Emily Williams' abdomen, a constant pang of guilt gnawed at me. Just like the man said, I took the money and pretended nothing had happened. If anything went wrong, Nurse Jane would take the fall. If I resisted the man, he might turn on me out of anger. Wait. Nurse Jane.
These family members always contacted Nurse Jane first, before handing the patient over to me. Could she not know something was off about them?
Why are you still standing there?
Great, now I had to deal with both this man and Nurse Jane. Staying here would undoubtedly cut off my source of income. I shook my head helplessly, deciding to pretend nothing had happened. The man put his gloves back on and opened the gift box on the nearby cabinet. Inside were various tools and a refrigerated box for storing a kidney.
No. Stop.
I couldn't ignore my conscience any longer and blurted out. Sure enough, the man, apparently out of patience, turned to attack me. Fortunately, I was prepared and avoided his scalpel. We immediately started grappling. I was no match for him and was quickly pinned to the ground. I struggled, trying to dodge the knife coming down at me. At that moment, a sealed bag fell from the bed frame. Inside were a few energy bars and some scattered candies.
Are you sure she's in a vegetative state?
I don't know. Who hid it there? Even I, who came in and out every day, hadn't noticed.
She's not in a vegetative state. Why didn't she react when you touched her? How could she pretend to be a log, completely still? And this wound, wouldn't it wake her from the pain?
There are ways. Injecting a high dose of sedatives could mimic a vegetative state.
I took a deep breath and slowly got up. Taking advantage of the man's distraction, I pressed the button by the bed.
What are you doing?
You can't escape. Someone will eventually tell me what's really going on with Emily Williams.
Soon, Nurse Jane rushed in. Seeing my disheveled state, she was momentarily stunned. Then she loudly demanded to know what was going on.
Nurse Jane, who is he really? He wants to take Emily Williams' kidney.
Even if it meant offending Nurse Jane, I couldn't stand by and let this happen. I couldn't align myself with someone involved in organ trafficking. At worst, I'd be fired from the hospital.
What?
I didn't expect Nurse Jane to be genuinely shocked, her eyes nearly popping out. She looked at the man in disbelief. But the man remained unfazed, continuing to smirk at Nurse Jane.
Call the police. He's impersonating Emily Williams' family.
Seeing Nurse Jane's reaction, I sighed in relief and quickly said, as long as Nurse Jane wasn't in on it, we could handle this. But Nurse Jane seemed hesitant, not responding, just looking at the man with a complicated expression. Seeing his confident demeanor, was he sure Nurse Jane wouldn't call the police? Were they really in cahoots?
I took out my phone. Just as I was about to dial, Nurse Jane stopped me.
John, let's just get rid of him.
She spoke to me in a kind tone she had never used before.
But he's committing a crime. I felt I had undergone a transformation and wouldn't sell my integrity for money.
Would she dare? Think about how I got here.
Every day, I help patients eat and clean them up. Since their families aren't around and critically ill patients are rarely conscious, no one knows if I cut corners. As long as I don't let them starve, there are no issues. Among all the patients, my favorite ones to take care of are those in a vegetative state. Their families are usually wealthy and give me generous tips. Plus, their condition is the easiest to manage, I just need to administer their nutrient solutions. Currently, I am taking care of a patient in a vegetative state. I've been looking after her for over a month, the longest I have cared for any patient. Her name is Emily Williams. She is reportedly very wealthy, a major shareholder in a large corporation. After a serious car accident, she became a vegetative patient. She stays in the best private room, receiving the highest level of care. Her family members rarely visit, giving me money to take care of her and then leaving in a hurry, visiting at most once or twice a week. Today, as usual, I was wiping her body with a wet towel when the door suddenly opened. It was our head nurse, Nurse Jane.
Nurse Jane? What's going on?
It turned out that the tips I had been receiving were not from the family.
John, we're in this together. You've taken the money too, you can't wash your hands of this.
My mind felt like it had exploded. What exactly had Nurse Jane been doing behind my back?
Nurse Jane, I'll return the money to you. Now, take this man and leave immediately, or I'll call the police.
Seeing my determination, the man gave me a threatening look but then left.
John.
Nurse Jane, considering you helped me administer the nutritional fluids to Emily Williams the other day, I'll pretend I don't know about this. From now on, I won't be involved in any of your visitor arrangements.
Looking at Emily Williams on the bed, I felt an indescribable sense of pity. She was probably the patient I had cared for the longest. Unconsciously, I felt like she was family.
What nutritional fluids?
Nothing. I'll take care of Emily Williams personally from now on.
After Nurse Jane left, I carefully stitched up Emily Williams' wound, looking at her complexly. Now I was sure that Emily Williams might really wake up. During the week I didn't administer the nutritional fluids, she was sustaining herself. And that week, only one girl had come to see her. Maybe she brought the food.
Are you awake or not?
If she was really awake, why didn't she tell me? Who was causing her to fall into a coma repeatedly? Or was this bag of things meant to confuse me? I felt like I was caught in a whirlpool. In the following days, I took care of Emily Williams personally and more meticulously than before. Nurse Jane also excluded me from that circle, although other rooms occasionally had visitors at night. But Emily Williams was safe. We held each other's secrets, maintaining a mutual understanding. I devoted myself to taking care of Emily Williams, handling everything personally. One day, I saw the girl who had visited during the week I forgot to administer the nutritional fluids. Since she wasn't one of Nurse Jane's clients, she didn't make an appointment and walked straight into the room. She was visibly surprised to see me there.
Hello.
I greeted her proactively. Previously, it was for the money, so I wasn't as dedicated to Emily Williams. Now, it was more out of guilt.
I have something to handle alone. Can you leave for a moment?
Okay.
I nodded in agreement. I also noticed she was carrying a lot of things. It made sense for someone to bring food for a patient. But now I understood that she was likely bringing food for Emily Williams. So I didn't go far. I stayed close to the door, peeking through the crack. Sure enough, she sneakily closed the curtains, glanced at the door, and luckily, I hid quickly, avoiding detection. Then, I saw her take out a syringe from the bag and prepare to inject it into Emily Williams. When she saw the unhealed wound on Emily Williams' abdomen, she was visibly stunned.
What are you doing?
I seized the opportunity to rush in and scold her. She was so shocked by my sudden entrance that she froze. Then she hurriedly hid the syringe.
What are you doing? And these things? Is Emily Williams already awake?
I glared at her, angrily questioning. Faced with my barrage of questions, the girl's expression changed.
What happened to her? Shouldn't you be asking yourself that?
Are you trying to keep her unconscious? Do you know you almost harmed her?
I could confirm that this girl occasionally came to inject Emily Williams with a strong sedative, keeping her in a coma despite being awake. Wasn't she afraid of causing serious harm to Emily Williams? Then why did she bring food for Emily Williams? It was so contradictory.
What happened?
I frowned and recounted the events surrounding Emily Williams. I didn't mention Nurse Jane's actions. As for the man, I claimed he was a criminal who disguised himself as a family member, knocked out Nurse Jane and me, and then fled.
What kind of hospital is this? We pay you so much money, and this is how irresponsible you are.
I couldn't be sure of her intentions towards Emily.
Who are you? What do you want?
Look closely. I'm her daughter. Her biological daughter.
She showed me her ID card. I was surprised. Anna Williams, with the same home address as Emily.
What is this? Pointing to the syringe in her hand.
You wouldn't understand even if I told you.
She prepared to leave the room.
If you don't explain, I won't let you leave. You tried to harm my patient, and I will call the police.
Wait! Someone is trying to harm my mom.
She revealed that Emily had woken up but instructed her to keep her in a comatose state. Anna only came by occasionally to give Emily injections and leave some treats.
How could I harm my own mother?
She escaped while I was momentarily distracted. Every day, I dutifully assist patients with their meals and hygiene. With families often absent and critically ill patients rarely conscious, my actions go unnoticed. As long as they aren't neglected, there are no complaints. Among all my patients, I favor those in a vegetative state. Their families are usually affluent and offer generous tips. Their care is straightforward, requiring only the administration of nutrient solutions. Currently, I care for Emily Williams, a patient in a vegetative state. She has been under my care for over a month, the longest I've ever looked after anyone. Emily, a wealthy major shareholder in a large corporation, ended up in this state after a severe car accident. Emily resides in the finest private room, receiving top-tier care. Her family, though wealthy, visits infrequently. After her surgery, they entrusted me with her care, offering money before hurriedly leaving, visiting at most once or twice a week. I am usually the only one entering Emily's room daily. Today, as I was wiping her body with a wet towel, the door suddenly opened. It was our head nurse, Nurse Jane.
How is she today?
The same as always, no changes.
Keep up the good work. Her family trusts you.
3 days later, Emily Williams was discharged and invited me to a cafe. I nervously looked at her seated across from me.
Thank you.
She said, now fully recovered.
It's nothing, really.
Because of a video I had, Emily's husband was imprisoned for attempted murder. Emily then began to recount her story.
My husband and I had known each other for a long time. We had our daughter, Anna, when I was 18. But he had an affair as I aged, and he grew fearful because I held half of the company's shares. He orchestrated the car accident to end my life. But I survived.
What about the other day?
I woke up when my abdomen was cut. Initially, I thought my husband was trying to kill me. But after hearing your conversation, I realized what was happening.
Emily smiled, pointing to the scar on her stomach.
I used to resent you, but then I didn't anymore. I saw how diligently you cared for me and gradually stopped resenting you. Especially after discovering the surveillance camera you installed, I decided to play along. I told Anna to spread the word that I wouldn't wake up, and sure enough, my husband came.
Emily blushed, quickly sipping her coffee to hide her embarrassment. I felt awkward too.
Did you trust that I would be on your side?
I've never misjudged anyone except my husband.
I smiled.
What about other things? Like Nurse Jane, was she bribed by your husband too?
What things?
Nothing, nothing.
I quickly shook my head and waved my hands, sighing inwardly. A week later, while at work, a team of police officers took Nurse Jane away. I was so scared I could hardly breathe.
Emily Williams asked me to give this to you.
The lead officer handed me a box before leaving with Nurse Jane. Remember to keep it a secret, read a note from Emily, making me break out in a cold sweat. But then I smiled. Inside the box was a bank card. This time, I accepted it without hesitation. It was Emily's hush money. Not accepting it might have caused more trouble. Later, I learned what Nurse Jane had been doing in secret. For $1,000, any man could spend half an hour alone with a patient, doing whatever he wanted. This was a pinned message in Nurse Jane's phone group. The group also contained photos of many female patients, with Emily Williams' photo pinned at the top. Despite being comatose and not particularly young, she was well maintained and had the charm of a mature woman, attracting many admirers who wanted to be alone with her. Emily's husband was also in the group. After this incident, I took over Nurse Jane's position and insisted that my nurses thoroughly verify the identity of every visitor. I didn't want another situation like Emily Williams to happen again. After all, I am a nurse, a guardian angel in white.